Yo, I think we is all live to go. Peace to the God, man. Can you hear me?
Indeed, indeed. I
Yep.
can.
Peace to the God. So, peace, God. Thank you for tuning in, man. I think I got my stream all good and ready to go, man. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here with me, God. For anybody who tuning in with us, welcome. You know this is the God and Earth Hour podcast. And I have a legendary and amazing guest, man, my man Sunez, the great God, man, the teacher of the Peace Course, pioneer over there at the law school, man. One of my big brothers, one of the gods I look up to, man, and I mean that, God. And I know I'm over here in
Yes,
DMECCA,
peace.
but God, you one of the gods that I think that always held the post and has always been
Mm.
out here teaching, man. And it's a pleasure to have you here. You was one of those people that when we thought of this, when we came to this understanding that we was having a podcast, that we had to have you on here at some point. I know you said
Right.
you do podcasts. You got a couple podcasts of your own, God. So it's an absolute
Indeed.
powerful pleasure, man, to have you on here, God. So and I know I gave you a little bit of introduction, but I'm gonna have you come up and introduce yourself. So and also really quick for anybody who don't know, if this is your first time tuning in to the God and Earth podcast, what we do, man, is we bring topics, we bring gods and earth together, and we have powerful dialogues in relation to our teaching and in relation to our way of life to help the people out there that's interested get an understanding, right? Not an understanding and get a real perspective from us, right? And from the people that's doing the work in our space, and making the knowledge manifest, man. So, God, if you can, man, please, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, God, and tell the people out there that maybe this may be their first time seeing you or building with you, God. Let them know who you are, man, if you please. The stage is all yours. Peace, God.
Peace, peace. Peace. I'm Sunez Allah, man. I teach the Peace Course at the Law School of Mecca. I've been teaching there since 2000. I've only had the knowledge itself one extra year than that. So I got the knowledge itself in 1999. And I started to teach in the Law School of Mecca the next year. So I went through a lot of, you know what I mean? And one of the ones I remember, it wasn't just our generation that loves hip hop, but also some of the elders. I remember the God Wise Jamel, remembered in perfection. Um, he used to, he used to say that, everything that people say in hip hop is really our dialect. You know what I mean? Our dialect. So I remember there's a Raz Fresco album. I forget which album. He has so many.
That's my
He has a
man.
skit where a brother says that, and it's something I've said years ago, that we are to hip hop what Rasta is to reggae. You know what I mean? And in development of hip hop, um, the the display of unity of the original people. Time though, you have not just a artistic culture, but for the first time, you have an actual genre of music that is made by a collective of the entire Black diaspora that exists in that area. You know what I mean? So you get the so-called African American, you get the so-called Puerto Rican, you get the so-called Jamaican American. So you have the English, Spanish. When it comes to hip hop music, let's just talk about music, right? It's to be clear what close these things are. Talk about rhyming, and they go that like rhyming. Oh, that comes from griots. And they go all the way back, right? They go all the way back, and or they go that hip hop comes from James Brown. They're all correct with that. But the unique aspect about hip hop is that all of us in this Black diaspora were colliding with similar cultural realities, and you could see it in the rhyme. In the 1970s, late 60s into 1970s, the first urban genre, that means the first genre that was developed in New York City is not hip hop. It actually is salsa. And it grows out of a more jazzed son, Cuban son, S-O-N, Cuban son. Son being a more formulaic music that is based on the different tempos. Guaguancó, guajira, bolero, which is a slow ballad. Different tempos make up Cuban son. When it comes here years before, it gets inducted into jazz, and that's where you get the Latin jazz and all these things. But in New York City, it developed into salsa. The reason I mention that is because they were rhyming in there as well. a typical salsa song has the set lyrics, and then after you get the bridge, you get a call and response. In that call, which is the chorus, right after the chorus, you get a rhyme. So it's almost like the first bar. And then after the chorus repeats itself, that singer, who we call a sonero, has to actually rhyme what he just said. He has to rhyme to what he just sang before the other chorus hits. You know what I mean? Then you have reggae. And the dancehall reggae at that time, though, was already toasting, which was battling each other, though, with songs and boast. You know what I mean? So the rhythmic, they didn't always rhyme, but the rhythmic effort was there. There was a rhythmic effort and a boasting and a braggadocio going on. So it was already in there. And then if you see the father of hip hop, who is Kool Herc, is Jamaican, and those sound elements, the sound speakers, the giant speakers, the display, the actual cipher that's created by those speakers to challenge and give forth the party. The way he was using the records, you know what I'm saying? And then creating something that wasn't even in reggae, but was recreating something. So he's recreating the best parts of records, and those end up being the breaks that he is repeating. He's basically repeating bridges, famous bridges in songs, isolations, right? Because until the break beat, the break, right? The break is actually isolation. So in jazz, when somebody gets to a break in jazz, it just means isolation, like a John Coltrane solo that goes on and on. When these isolations happen, a lot of people don't understand that these isolations are actually the rhythmic centers of a lot of the other Black diaspora, the rhythmic centers of African funk, the rhythmic core of salsa. And that's why, let's say, a lot of the b-boy dance music, it has a very standard approach now, right? And not the jazzy approach and the freewheeling approach. All of these things were colliding to make a music that was filling with the insights of the entire Black diaspora. The gods are all there because the unity that is developed through the strife, the hells of activists, Black and brown before, right? Before African Babada sees what could be done, right? Is done by the gods. So a lot of the precepts of saying, well, how could Black, brown, and all these original peoples from different places get along? The format for that, though, is actually from our teachings. You know what I'm saying? It's from our teachings, and our teachings saying that who is the original man, and teaching about the 16 shades of the original man, you know? And I was telling off air before we got on air, I was telling you guys about one time I was teaching a class, and Kool Herc walked into my classroom in the law school in Mecca, and he walked in just to say hello. Unfortunately, at that time, my students couldn't identify him, which was, which turned the career for the rest of the night into a hip hop curriculum because I just couldn't let it go. But when he asked, right, what he came in to say though wasn't to teach, to tell me how to teach the class. It was none of that. It was to tell the people that, like, tell my students the foundation of hip hop wouldn't have happened if the gods weren't there standing on a square, which becomes known as the b-boy stance, but that was our square. And that toughness and that headstrongness to allow the culture to righteously continue. What do I mean by righteously continue? That if it would be about the utmost competitiveness and competition, then that it would happen without violence. It would happen without people breaking it up. It would happen with people getting the chance to compete. You know what I'm saying? That we're the best, obviously, And that was definitely made clear by Kool Herc, countless times that I've seen him and heard him speak and built with him. So,
I've heard that history spoken before that he said that.
Indeed. And see, one of the things, right? Well, people don't have to bring it up to date, right? Because my history in hip hop isn't really from that era. I was just a kid. My history in hip hop begins in the mid 90s. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And here I am, a writer who basically just wanted to say something. And I wasn't good at any of the elements that existed. So I started to write in my college newspaper.
Now,
But where I was,
peace, God.
yeah, but
Not to cut your wisdom. What elements, God? You said the elements. What are the elements? Because
oh yeah,
everybody
let's
might
talk
not
about the
know.
elements though.
Yeah. That's a jewel
Right,
because he
we
said
got
the elements.
the graffiti, the major elements that make it hip hop. That once they said these four, now we have something. Was the presence of graffiti, which was always around, but it was acknowledged by African Bambaataa, right? The graffiti. Then you have the DJing, and then because of the DJing, and the DJing have to actually announce things on the mic, you have the development of the MC, and then of course, right, we have the dancers that are dancing, and those become the B-boys, the break boys, or the break girls, right? The B-girls and B-boys. You know what I mean? So those four elements. You know, as a child, I did, of course, I'm a Boricua child, you know, Puerto Rican kid, I'm going to do B-boy, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't become a B-boy. I tried my hand at emceeing, right? DJing wasn't my thing because I just didn't have the patience and the money to buy all this equipment, try to sequester all this equipment. And graffiti was definitely not my thing because I'm a writer. I'm not an artist, you know what I mean? And when I started to write, it was just a way to let loose of what I thought hip hop could be. You know, it was a place where I could learn things, you know what I mean? Where I could see a place where we were expressing ourselves, you know what I'm saying? And so when I wrote about it, I didn't realize that where I was going to school in CUNY's Baruch College, I was surrounded by record labels and by magazines. You know what I mean? So eventually people saw my writing in the newspapers and they came to get me into the magazines. That's how I got into Vibe. That's how I ended up going to XXL. I did all of them. Every magazine you can name that is big, I've been in it. You know what I mean? Vibe, XXL, The Source, Hip Hop DX, Press, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Didn't you do like
whatever they were.
Do Don Diva, Fez, one of them?
I never wrote for Don Diva, you know what I'm saying? I never wrote for Don Diva, and the reason is because I never looked for that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I never looked for writing about like the crimes that we did or anything like that. I cared about writing about the music.
Right, okay.
So my innovation in this thing, and where I said I made my own element, you know what I'm saying? Was if all I'm doing is covering other artists and writing about what happens, then I'm just a journalist. You see what I'm saying? But if I actually create, if I actually make the pieces I write about music creative with whatever poetry and prose that I can inflect into it, then it becomes a creative piece, and what I'm doing is an element. You know what I mean? And I got into that because I read Bones Malone's writings, and he was writing creative essays in Vibe magazine. And I said, what if I could take it a step further and write about the actual music creatively? You know what I mean? And that was my innovation. The reason it took so long to actually put out there was because magazines wouldn't let me write in that way. They had a factory way of writing. So everybody has a similar way of writing unless you're allowed to, unless you're known. And it was very difficult for me because I had very progressive ideas, right? But I say all that though because as I developed and became what I wanted to be, which is what I am now, a writer, a creative writer of hip hop in my own element, covering the music now since the 2010s specifically, right? I think, and I said this off air to you, the gods aren't just contributing to hip hop, but we dominate the narrative. You know what I'm saying? So that means that, right. So that means that wherever you find a great artist, right, whether he's in our nation or not, right, he's usually a brother in our nation, as far as a brother that is kicking righteousness, that respects what we about and builds with us. Or they're the gods themselves. And the most progressive music, 7 out of 10 of those artists, each time that you take the most progressive, next level, or the highest quality music, is going to be the gods. And I'm talking about today. I'm not talking about yesterday. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They're all over. You know what I'm saying? They're all over. And there are certain people that, as far as the way the music is composed and the way that they become arch figures in the movement. There are movement cornerstones that continue whole ciphers, and there are gods that are doing that. Like, for example, the god Powerful Jabbar. You know, a lot of people know him as Planet Asia. You know, a lot of people don't know how powerful his legacy, you know what I'm saying, and his dominance on wax and off wax is in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And there's gods all over. I can't even tell you because I let those people tell you. But there's a lot of my students though are some of the best artists out today. You know what I'm saying? And you hear it in their music. You know what I'm saying? You hear it in their music. You know?
No, God, and God, what I was gonna ask you, what you know, what with us with that much influence and that much being in those inner pieces in the infrastructure, what do you think? Do you think that it's a disconnect? Do you think that something happened along the line where the it almost seemed like the new culture of hip hop kind of is creating this disassociation with the knowledge? Like, is it just a new generation, or is it just, like you said, if the guys are still out here, it's just that the people may not know about them just yet?
Well, first, when you talk about music and black music, right? We got to talk about black music because of American black music. Like, see, hip hop to me is a music of the black diaspora, but it gets abused like black music, any other black music genre. You know what I'm saying? So the only difference is from jazz or soul or anything like that is that the speed by which hip hop gets appropriated, destroyed, commercialized is at near light speed. You know what I'm saying? If you compare it to any other genre that exists in the world, you go back to genres in the United States, like, you know, the blues, jazz, funk, R&B. Then you could go to other countries. We mentioned reggae, salsa, merengue, anything you got. They're all commercialized and bastardized. But nothing at the light speed that was done with hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's right. Astronomical. So you got to look at that first when you start to look at what the gods and what the gods don't have the messages, right? And the reason I say to look at the music first is because when people say, oh, the gods aren't dominating and stuff, there's no such thing as a music that gets popped out and then has the best music on air.
That's right.
Where would you get that?
True indeed.
It doesn't happen with any kind of music. It doesn't happen with jazz. It doesn't happen with any kind of music I could think of. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it just happened at light speed that it would get, betrayed and belittled and diluted like that. You know, so it makes sense. The only difference is that we get fooled that we have a command of the way that we define it. And the truth is, and I say this all the time, unlike a lot of our other musics, we saw a lot of people outside of the culture, let's keep it real, just white people talking about the culture, right? Or the genre. And so we could say that they weren't really about it. They don't really know what it really is. When it comes to hip hop, this was documented incorrectly by our people. You know what I'm saying? It was documented sloppy by our people. You know, it was our black people that didn't ask properly about what the knowledge of self is. And I'll tell you why. This is anecdotal. This is not a shown and proven fact. This is anecdotal, but I got so many anecdotes that my anecdotal thoughts have some measure in this.
Go ahead, Bill.
Just let people know, you know. But you got a lot of 85 niggas, right? And they would be embarrassed that they don't have the knowledge. They'd be embarrassed that they don't have the fortitude to actually stay with the knowledge. That these people that they're talking to, these artists that they're talking to, had the guts to say that the most supreme being in the universe is not some mystery god, right? But is us ourselves. I've never understood the absurdity. This is me personally. Understood the absurdity that somebody says the original man is God, and then you say, well, that's me, right? And then after that, you go, well, I don't care to research that. That shows your own demise, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we had a lot of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was treated like an other splinter culture. It wasn't treated as people didn't our people didn't study hip hop like we were embedded in that piece.
Right.
Like the things that brothers were saying, though, it's just crazy stuff that they were saying, and they're just cool artists. So it's almost like people were glamorizing the artist like a rock star, people of great esteem, but not really great worth, not really great intellect, not really great value. You know what I'm saying? That they're just dynamic and incredible to be around.
Peace.
But they don't have the intellect to be think about.
God.
You know what I mean? Just a kid. A lot of these people were college educated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just like I was college educated. You know what I'm saying? But that's all that they had. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have any time in the street. They didn't have any time just walking in the street. Who made the music? Who was doing the music? They didn't have any time with that. You know what I'm saying? So when they did it, they didn't really look into it with any kind of respect. You know? They were like, well, how can I cover things? How can I find music and that covers Christian values? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, God. Let me ask you this. So, whereas it seems as if the nation didn't get wrote into that history like that, what the Zulu nation did. Peace,
Right.
So, you know, how do you factor that in?
I think the Zulu Nation is a little different, though, because the Zulu Nation, because Africa Bambaataa was leading them in the charge of saying this is hip hop, right?
Right.
Zulu Nation benefits a lot because, and they know it too, they appropriated a lot of the best parts of what we were doing,
right,
in imagery.
I know that, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they appropriated like what they thought was the knowledge they called the fifth element knowledge. You know what I'm saying? They did a lot of that, and that appropriation came a little bit later too. By the way, you know what I'm saying? As far as how they were saying that, you know what I mean? And at the same time, though, they were marketing themselves all the time. You know what I'm saying? As a culture of fun, as a united band of artists of all types of fields and aspects. So it becomes easier for them to blow up. Like the gods, like if you ever built with like the elders, they were always saying like, yo, you know, we're not just hip hop. Like we don't, that's just one thing. Like we weren't supposed to always go out there and identify ourselves as hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like the years I teach my course, and I still do this to this day, I don't really be telling people how much I've done in hip hop.
True indeed.
You know what I'm saying?
True indeed.
You know, and that's always been the way I've taught. I've never really used my life, unless it was particularly relevant, to actually teach something. I've always wanted to get across to people science, because I didn't want them to have beliefs, but I wanted science. And right, the new student, the newborn that walks in, the person off the street that walks into a law school in Mecca, to be able to say, you know what, he gave me some things to study and to research on to see if it's true. Not to say like, yo, that he does some cool stuff, I guess I should be associated with that. You know what I'm saying? That would be the worst thing, you know? So it just became a thing. We weren't harping on that. Right. But once hip hop, the height of hip hop culture, you know, people argue this all the time. The foundation is the DJ and this and that, but the truth is that the height of hip hop music is the MC. That's an actual fact. The height of hip hop culture is the MC. The person that, right? Think about it. They're all expressions. They're all expressions of what you think and how you see things. Who has been able to express themselves the most and everywhere? And that is the MC. They've been able to write themselves into the world. You know what I mean? And so what happens when you have stuff like that, right? Once the 90s hit, and you're saying about how things really change, I don't think it's really the Zulu Nation. One of the things that it changes because hip hop, they start to understand it. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people look at genius.com, right? Where you got, you know, where you have people explaining lyrics, though, which is wild to me, because I'll explain some lyrics from the gods, like on the Genius, and people you got 85 niggas telling me, no, that's not it. You know what I'm saying? That shit is fun.
Like, no, that's not what he meant.
You know what though? All right. You know, I told you what Power U is, but you know what? You tell me what it is. You know what I mean?
Yo, that reminds me.
That's
The
funny.
Jizza, he got a thing where he's at Harvard, and the students at Harvard are breaking down his lyrics. And he's sitting back like, wow, I never thought of it like that.
He's like, word, that's what I
That's
meant.
how y'all
You know what I'm
got
saying?
Right.
And God, it's funny, God, because it's such an interesting dynamic. Because like the big thing I'm seeing now is like, yo, I seen the Wu-Tang series. I'm really interested in the knowledge. Like,
Right.
what is
Well,
that?
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about all that, right?
Okay.
When I was saying about the lyrics, right? I was there way before Genius.com existed. You know what I'm saying? And the first websites that tried to get lyrics annotated. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't know about. There was a site for Wu-Tang lyrics. I forgot the name of it. It was like, I can't remember the name of it. And then there was a site that had lyrics of all artists, and that was called Ola. You know what I'm saying? Online hip hop lyrics archive. You know what I mean? And I knew the producer,
Wow.
famous producer that put that together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's basically when you read old lyrics from artists that are older on Genius.com, that's where they got it from. They didn't go through any of that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they set up a system where people could fix it. You know what I'm saying? So they don't have to do the work. You know what I mean? Because it's not really about documenting the history of hip hop. It's really about just making a popular place for people to understand what they would like and what they like today. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter what great artists were saying. But the reason I'm mentioning that though is because when these lyric sites started to come up, right? And labels started to say your artists need to actually, with BMI and with ASCAP, actually need to hand in their lyrics. Now they start to know what the lyrics mean, or at least what the lyrics are saying. And so they may not know everything that we're building on the mic. You know what I'm saying? Like they could read it, but they may not understand it. But they could also say that, listen, this is stuff that I don't want to hear on a record here. I don't want to sell a record with stuff that's saying things that I don't understand or might be confrontational. You know what I mean? And that's where you get it, the difference. You know what I'm saying? People go that, but they just promote the negative. All genres of black music, they always promote the worst kind of music. I always say this, right? If you really understand music, then you understand it's a language that very few people speak. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so the easiest way for people to speak a language that they don't, to come together, right? To learn from a language that they don't speak is to speak to them in baby language. So what do you get? You get baby music. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
You get simple music. That's what unites the world. Language. See, people go, music is a language and everybody understands it. Now, music is a language just like any other language, and people don't understand it. People can't speak the language of music. They don't know how to listen to music, and they weren't taught anymore how to listen to music. See, to me, music is something to be taught how to listen to just the way we're taught how to read and write.
Damn, God.
Right?
That's peace.
So what happens is that you get music that is very simple. So you go, look, little baby or like, little something, their music is uniting all these people. Yeah, it's good. It's bad music. Simple, babyish, simple, low-key music is what unites people. You know what I mean? Everybody can understand it. You know what I mean? Don't be saying that it's some universal language though, and the guy's just pounding out two notes. You know what I'm saying?
He said the drum is mostly intrigued by the drum.
It's, it's like hustle and flow. You know what I'm saying? Everybody thought it was a work of genius though, but I thought it was a satire. I thought it was supposed to be a comedy.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? And then started winning awards because he just goes, whoop that trick. He knew nothing about making music. Whoop that trick. He did. Mm-hmm. A dead note. He did. It's actually a dead note. It's the
Oh, shit.
Damn. And then they had a hit. So a lot of the language of music went around the globe, and so everybody did it weaker. You know what I'm saying? It went to Puerto Rico, and they didn't really bring it there right, so we got reggaeton. Yeah, we got diluted versions of everything. You know what I'm saying? So music is not a language that people understand. But when labels started to see what was being said, they were like, nah, we don't need people saying stuff that RZA was saying. You know, if people go back, if they're real Wu heads, as we're talking about the Wu, if you go back and read interviews before the W album, the 2000 W album, which to me has some of RZA's greatest music. Forever, from 97 to 2000, the lyrics are much more simple. Maybe not simpler as far as how they delivered their techniques and all that. The techniques were on top. But the actual content was so much simpler. And if you read interviews they had in the Source and everywhere else, they were talking about simplifying it. I remember reading Raekwon saying that, yo, RZA, you know, he came too heavy and he always wants to hit that deep shit. So it's funny how these things cause battles between people, because in one turn we hear Raekwon not liking anything from RZA's Bobby Digital era, but at the other turn, he's also upset that RZA's too deep on the mic. You see? Damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
Right, because those two opposite extremes.
Right, so it's like none are good. You know, even though I like Bobby Digital records, though.
Yeah,
I think,
ain't no question.
You know, there's a lot of great records in there, a lot of great ideas. You know what I mean?
You saying that you think that W is his best work?
I don't know if I could pick RZA's best work, but if I did it, musically in the 93 to 97 era, it couldn't be from after that. But RZA's The W is a really great work. You know what I mean? I think songs like Ja World and the Master Killer solo song, all of those records, they're next level. You know what I mean? The next level.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Yo, so
You know how, just a last thought on that. One of the ways you know a great producer is you listen to their instrumentals and see all the things that you missed. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
I've never heard a producer have so many things that are added into a song that are cohesive other than RZA. You could name the Bomb Squad and what Chuck D was doing, but that's more like a slap chaos. You know what I mean? That's like a chaos collage. RZA's hit more like an orchestra. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, the W is definitely in the top. You know what I mean? Okay. Musically, I thought his ideas, you know. But I never get mad at RZA either musically, because he experiments a lot. And I kind of enjoy, you know, since I listen to so much music, I actually get bored of people doing music the correct way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I like to hear a little experimentation, which means that you'll strike out. You got to strike out if you experiment.
And God, that's what I was about to ask you, man. Do you have like, who do you have like a God or somebody? It doesn't necessarily have to be God, but just a hip hop artist that influenced you musically to want to pursue the work that you do, God? I
think as a kid, if I go throughout my career, the people that I've written about are the people that have influenced me in my life. Right. Like a lot of these people are family. You know, you brothers out in DMECCA, like people like Bronze Nazareth and stuff like that. That's like family to me. You know what I'm saying? You know, Remembered Imperfection, the Kevlar 7. You know what I mean? That was the God. That was one of my students. The God Lord Josiah, you know what I'm saying?
Word. Peace to the God. Yeah, that's my man.
Indeed. You know, not just great gods, but incredible artists.
Word.
But so of this era, like since the 2000s, the 2010s on. But as a kid, though, as far as like influenced me to write and stuff, it was really two people. If I had to narrow it, it was Guru, Peace to the God, and Gangstar, because they had Guru had such an ethos. Yeah, they did. You know what I'm saying? Like he was showing you how to be in any situation. And I just did the knowledge of that because I'm from Medina, right? But I'm not from the heart of Medina. You know what I mean? I always say that I'm from the lettered lung of Medina because I'm from Sunset Park all the way down. You know what I'm saying? And the gods weren't there. They were like the enemies of the Latin gangs that were where I was at. You know what I mean? So when I got knowledge of self, I had to travel and go get it. A lot of people are given the knowledge. I had to go get it. You know what I'm saying? And so I have an experience that is unlike most people from Medina or Mecca, you know? And because I was going to school in Mecca, that's why I went to go get the knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Because the God Day Son Allah brought me to Allah School in Mecca because he lived nearby there. And we went to the same college. But when I look at who influenced me to write and be a hip hop writer and a journalist, though, it was obviously as a writer, Bones Malone. It was Guru as far as the nature of how to be, but it also was KRS One, because the way KRS One spoke, his diction, his ability to speak, I was emulating a lot of those things. The clarity that he had, you know what I'm saying? Those things all influenced me. You know what I'm saying? The idea that you could make yourself a different person. You know what I mean? So, it's these things, and so, the Wu-Tang always inspired, among that. I mean, I have so much music. We're going forever as far as how I've been influenced. These are juggernauts, you know what I mean?
No doubt.
Rakim continued to amaze me. You know what I'm saying? Continues to amaze me, Right?
And God, I do got a question for you. Somebody had a question for you in our
indeed.
in our chat room. The question was, do you know any history in the early days of hip hop about a brother named Peace, who returned to the essence? You ever heard any history on that?
No, I don't. That's a good question. I don't. But like I said, my expertise, where I said, listen, I have to know everything about it. In my entire career, I started in '94. If someone says, what's my expertise, though, I would have to say from 2010 on. It doesn't mean I can't speak very, very deeply about all of the eras I was writing in. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. Absolutely.
But from 2010 on, nobody has the litany of work that I have, though.
No doubt.
There is no books about this era of hip hop other than the ones I made.
Peace to the God.
And everybody else that made it, though, the shit is not on point. Not like I did.
Peace to the God.
You know what I mean?
Peace to the God.
And that's already 3 books, you know what I mean? And that's about, that's almost about 300, 400 pages of work there.
No doubt, no doubt.
What's the name of your books?
The Filtered Real Essays from the Invisible Renaissance is the major work. The era that I call covering the 2010s, I called it the Invisible Renaissance. I called it that because I consider this era that we're in the most quantitative era of quality we've ever seen. In other words, the most music of quality that we've ever had. I didn't say it's the best recorded era. That probably goes to the 90s. You know what I mean? But as far as the amount at its highest and at its most qualitative, 2010's on is it. But I also call the 2000s the dark ages because I think it was one of the most shit eras in hip hop music.
Yeah,
you know what
I mean?
It's where everything got diluted. It's where, certain people crown GOAT. You know what I mean? And they're not even original. You know what I'm saying?
Peace, God. Now, God, here's a fun question for you.
I'm not saying that certain people didn't deserve to be making music.
Right.
And I say this all the time, though. Everything that we make, we're the gods. You know what I'm saying? Everything that we make is for everybody. That's why when people say nation of gods and earths, though, that encompasses the entire universe. You know what I'm saying? All humanity, the fishes, the animals, the bugs, everything. The plant life, everything. Everything is in that.
No, that's right.
So when we make culture, it's for everybody.
Peace, God.
But that doesn't mean that, everybody is the best. You know what I'm saying?
God, I got a question. We got a question in the comments, God. We usually
okay.
we always get some fun questions, and you are amazing, God, to have on this because you one of those great teachers that we got, and I know you always get some fun questions down at the law school in Mecca. And I think the big piece of this is that being that we on a platform where people are interested, where we talking to, it's not a platform where we just talking to the gods. Like these ain't the gods that's in the comment room. These is people that's randomly clicking on the live. That's people that's just following us who interested in the teaching. So the brother said, what are the rules? He said, what are the rules of a 5%?
The rules and regulations not mentioned in the lesson.
I knew that was gonna be fun.
I'm gonna say this though: when I teach students, though, I never teach them of rules. Though I never teach them to be a citizen of a nation. I don't teach them any of that. You know what I'm saying? If you love this nation comes from the Latin word nacer, right? Nacer meaning, as in Spanish, nació means born. right? It becomes born in Spanish. We teach the science to our birthright. So no one is following rules. You see what I'm saying? They're realizing laws that are universal. You know, so when we say we deal with supreme mathematics is the law and order of the universe, what we call creation, right?
Yes.
How it relates to you, original man, is that the supreme mathematics is what and how does the original man do? You see? So that law and order of the universe that you look at in supreme mathematics will tell you how things went when you look back on events in life. But in how you will do, you are realizing and being able to articulate the principles that you have and proving them willfully before you actually do them. So that you do things written in advance in the mind before you actualize them with the body. You know? So then, because somebody, but the rule, if that is a rule, then it becomes a law once you do it, because you were supposed to actually show and prove that it's not right and exact to eat that. You see? And I tell the student, though, if you stop eating pork, though, and you still thought it was right and exact, though, you're still eating pork. You know what I'm saying? Because when the dust clears, though, and the excitement of being around Sunez Allah, or the excitement of Allah's school in Mecca wears thin, you're back on that bacon. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Damn.
So it's not rules. You know what I'm saying? It's not rules. Right?
Yeah, that reminds me of something I used to always say is you couldn't join this if you wanted to.
That's right. That's right. You know what I'm saying? That's right. You know, it's something that we are, and we constantly study to be that. You know what I mean? We constantly study to be that. You know, everywhere I go, you know, since I got the knowledge, everywhere I go, I've gotten the flag. I wear my flag. People see it. Not every God does that. You know what I'm saying? The only reason that I do it, though, is because I can't really not do it. I have been front and center since I got this knowledge. You know what I'm saying? So when I got this knowledge in 1999, I'm gonna tell you this: my first class that I learned from with my enlightener, right? I got knowledge itself. I went to a law school on a Saturday. I went to Knowledge Me Law's class on a Tuesday at a law school in Mecca. Day's son, who brought me to the school, if anybody knows Day's son, he's one of the great hip hop writers and one of the most creative, eccentric individuals you'll ever meet. You know what I'm saying? And I never been on that side of Harlem. I don't know Spanish Harlem. You know what I'm saying? So he said, listen, you gotta be writing exact or they'll bomb you. Now, he didn't explain what bombing was. So I was like, I don't know what it means. You know what I mean? And so what happened was that I tried to learn everything. So in 1998, I'm reading every Elijah book, every book about ancient African history. I read The Destruction of Black Civilization. I read African Origin of Civilization. I read all these books. I memorized math, the supreme mathematics, the supreme alphabet, and the 1 to 10. And the first 4 degrees of the 1 to 36. And then I said, you know what? You can take me now, all right? I'm going to go over there. You know what I'm saying? And I still was unsure. I said, listen, if they don't let a Puerto Rican like me get the knowledge, though, then I'm going to tell them to go fuck themselves, and I'm going to go back. Yeah. But it wasn't even like that. The eldest, I remember, you know, see a lot, remember the factory. Everybody there was peace. Firstborn prince, everybody was real peace. You know what I'm saying? And it was such a beautiful cipher, like just people learning and stuff, like learning things that were going to empower them. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, wow, this is incredible. So when I came to the class Tuesday, the first class I ever went to announced me, he asked everybody to build on what they know. And I said, well, I know. He took a long time to tell us what he means by know. Make sure you know what you know, and don't say what you think you know. So I was like, okay, I'm sure I know this. I memorized it. So I gave my little build about culture. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been trying to work on it. And I don't remember what I said, but I remember it was well articulated and whatnot. And he asked us to talk to me at the end of the class when everybody left. And I was like, oh shit, I messed up. And he goes, you know, he asked me who I was and some details. And I told him I'm a writer, you know what I'm saying? I write magazines and things like that. And he said, listen, if you keep up like this, so you'll be teaching at a law school. I said, okay. And so a year later, I was teaching at law school. You know what I mean? And so every day for that year, I was at law school in Mecca every single day with every single elder that was there. By the time I started teaching at law school in Mecca, every single person that ever was alive, at that time, that taught at law school in Mecca, I built with. So I built with people that people don't even know about. I built with freedom, like understanding see freedom, right? Who's so from the Dominican Republic. He taught GED there. Born Perfection. Dark Him, you know what I'm saying? Firstborn Prince, obviously my enlightened knowledge me. Colleen, everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Whether they wanted to tell me something or not. You know what I'm saying?
A whole lot of folks walking through them doors.
Yeah, because I was like, if I'm going to teach here, I have to have something unique to share. So when I started to teach, it wasn't something that people expected us to teach a civilization class. The God Day Sun had written up something about a militant class that teaches what we knew. And what we knew was writing. Right? And it was supposed to be a writing class. You know what I mean? And we were too young, and a lot of scientists, and this is the truth, right? A lot of people saw me as like, who's this Puerto Rican kid teaching shit at a law school? You know what I'm saying? So it's a fact, you know what I mean? He's all light-skinned and shit, and, like, the nigga talking about salsa and shit, you know what I mean? And so I got a lot of confrontation, you know what I'm saying? I got a lot of confrontation from people that just wanted to test me. I got confrontation from people that, to be honest, were probably jealous or probably frustrated. I got all types of shit, you know what I'm saying? And for a lot of those years, the first years, people thought we were just a writing class, Like I remember Umar, he used to always say, "Oh look, they teach writing," you know what I'm saying? I said, "Okay, believe it like that," you know what I mean? But when you teach at law school in Mecca, people walk into your classroom, and they want to know everything.
Yeah.
They don't want to see a specific course about something. They want to know, why is the black man God? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that in Harlem is where every single spirituality gets its shot. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
If you got a spirituality and a hustle, you could take your shot at a law school in Mecca, in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? That's where everything comes. So all types of people's peddling religions everywhere. You know what I'm saying? All types of shit. Everything you can hear. You know what I'm saying? And it's like the MMA of fucking religions out there.
And God, let me ask you this: like with just that, I don't want to call it adversity, but just what keeps you motivated, God, to keep moving forward with the Peace Corps, God? Because you did a class last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? And I taught through this entire pandemic, either digitally or digitally there in the classroom and or digitally. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna tell you this, right? I taught that class because I acknowledge myself. Every single teacher that taught me, instead of the elders I'm talking about, Dumar, Firstborn Prince, Infinite Al-Jamar, Dumar Wadi, all of these elders I spent time with. You know what I'm saying? My big brothers like Dark Him and Saquon, Born Perfection, all these guys took time with me. They did it freely. Expecting me to just learn. And that I would have something that I could give eventually just because it was a good idea. And they weren't like, you gotta do this now because I taught you nothing. Nobody was saying anything to me. You know what I mean? And I hate organizations. So how could I even do this long? And it was because what we was teaching was writing and exact.
Peace, God.
It's that simple. What we was teaching was writing exact. You know what I mean? And I have the ability to teach. We're all born righteous teachers because we sacrifice something to share something.
Right.
But there are some of us that don't really teach well. You know what I'm saying? They actually teach concepts. No matter what anybody says, I have the proof of being able to teach concepts that I understand. And that was always something I had to give for. So that's really why I say that I have lived through everything. Homelessness, massive poverty, the life of a freelance writer, editor, all these things, you know what I'm saying? Everything, I even taught at the school when it was a blackout, you know what I'm saying?
God.
We got over there in the dark a little bit,
Peace to the God. And God, man, that's
what I do. But look at all the things I learned from all these elders. I learned not just my way of life as God, but I also learned the martial way of life because of the gods.
Peace, God.
You know? So they introduced me to R.C. Gun, you know, Bobby D. Whitaker, you know, who's really like an honorary 5%er, you know, who's an knowledge seed, and he taught us all. So all the gods of my generation, we learned from him. And that was all free. I never paid anything to learn any of this stuff. I paid zero money to learn martial arts. I paid zero money to learn this knowledge itself. I paid zero money to learn to have all these forms to teach. You know what I'm saying? So when I teach in the classroom, I want to be able to give those things freely to the classroom. You know what I'm saying? To the students. You know what I'm saying? And give them something. And now that it's digital, it's also much easier too.
Yeah.
You know, because before it became digitally broadcasted, I was able to make the class digital by the 2010. So I was able to give aspects of it. You know, a lot of people don't know that when they learn in my course, you're getting access to my library. And my digital library is over 4,000 books. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of references, a lot of resources, all of these things that I've been able to amass over these 20 plus years, you know, teaching. You know?
Man.
But that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me going. You know, and if you see through the years, I've had students get killed. I've had students fall off and be 85. I've had students do devilishment with things I teach them, like actually score devilishment, you know, saying things I said, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I've seen people have successful families. I've had people succeed in the careers that they choose. And I don't know if I'm 100% or what percent I'm responsible for any of that. You know what I'm saying? But it's an honor to be linked to that I didn't not help it. You know what I mean? That I did not help it. You know what I mean?
And it's definitely a powerful work, God. It's something that the people that I would say, it may be people that see you and appreciate your work that you may not even know, God. You know what I mean? Like you one of those people, God, when I get new students in the knowledge that I tell them, yo, that's one of the guys you need to follow on YouTube. That's a person's course you need to watch. This is one of the guys that, yo, the God does a course, or, you know, on a certain day, you know, on a regular basis that you need to do the knowledge to. You know what I mean? Among other resources, because I think we in the age and time where it not only is it, like you said, it's an add-on for you to be able to make it digital, but now us other students in other places then get access to those resources where it's like, man, wow, yo, the God, you know, gave up a lot of information, because even that's what IC said, and he was like, God, I know the God for that, for his course, for his teaching, for his build. And I was like, wow, you know, because I was like, yo, the God be talking about the hip-hop, and the God was like, yo, but what about the Peace Course? Like, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh yeah, you're right, absolutely, God. So not only is it a resource to those right in your vicinity, God, but it's such a huge resource for us abroad, man. For us abroad, God. Word, man. Definitely, God. Definitely.
I used to check into the Peace Course periodically when we was holding, when I was personally holding the civilization classes we was having out here. You know, I held down the civilization classes and 120 classes for several years out here.
That's peace. Yeah, that's a real honor. You know, honor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
peace to God.
What I find most interesting, right, and the advantages of today is that when I got knowledge of self, right, I used to be rolling everywhere. Like, I take time to roll with God throughout the city. You know what I'm saying? So I go to law school in Mecca, and then sometimes I end up somewhere else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, yo, he's got the hot hand building. I'm gonna go roll with him. You know what I mean? Like something like that. And I remember rolling with Dark Kim through the Bronx, through Keelan, and you know, the place that they all met up, Bronx Telnet, when they had the internet services that they were doing and pages, and you know, you spend all night though, and like, listen, I be with the gods, and I'm not a drinker, I'm not a smoker, I don't do any of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I be around the gods, just traveling, just be a fly on the wall, doing the knowledge. You know what I mean? And now almost every other day, dog, can be online. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And people don't realize the gift in that because he's just freely giving stuff, you know, jewels. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing, you know. I think that one of the challenges I have today, and I keep telling this to the students that are online, is that what can you do as a student online that goes above and beyond a student that would be in my classroom, just so you could prove that the way you learned it from me is just as worthy as my students that are with me. You know what I'm saying?
Peace.
And I think that there's a format for that. So I keep developing that kind of curriculum format because, let me tell you something, I've always taught it in an unorthodox way because I don't, most of my, I have tons of students because I teach at law school in Mecca. That's where people go. So when people talk about having the most amount of students, I never count my students because if we did, I have more than everybody. Because I'm at law school in Mecca. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not teaching students that I would hang out with, right? Let me say that again. Like, a lot of the gods and the way that we was taught was like, you see somebody that is worthy of the teaching because they seem to be A like you, meaning they are, before they were A like to you, they are like you. They might have the same interests. They might be like you. They remind you of the way you were. Honestly, I go out into the street. No one reminds me of me. I don't look at people. No one. Everybody reminds me of something special about themselves. To me, I see something different in everybody when I see a student. And so I don't really teach students that I would roll with, like I would hang out with or anything like that. Some of them I end up hanging out with and others I don't. You know what I'm saying? And that's just because of life, not because of the way we live. So how do we teach people how do we teach in such a way where they have to be someone to hang out with, someone that is in your cipher like that, you know? And a lot of people aren't used to that. You know what I mean? And so they can't teach people that are totally different than them, that might have a lifestyle that is totally different than them. You know what I mean? And I think that's one of the challenges that we have in teaching all the human families, you know? Is you teach people from out of state or someone like that, some of these people are going to blatantly have different realities than you. If you teach people from different cultures, immediate cultures, you got to know that you don't know shit about their culture. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and be humble.
Right, you know, like, it's funny that we look at people from different backgrounds and we say, oh, look, they look at us this way and they don't bear witness that the black man is God. And I'm like, yo, you didn't either. You had to get the knowledge too.
Right.
So it was something at 85 about your approach too. When you, before you got it, that was saying like, yo, he's wilding out, so I gotta teach him this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when we see it with other people, though, we can't just say that that's a defect of their upbringing. You know what I'm saying? Right? All those people that got self-hatred for themselves. I don't know. I didn't know that's probably the most universal thing that our people have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, true indeed, God. True indeed. And God, well, we just getting over to our hour mark, man. I don't want to keep you all night because I know we can build.
As long as this show goes, I'm here.
Yeah, God, we try to hold it down in an hour, man. Where can anybody that want to check you out, God, and check out your work? Where can they find it, God? Where can people that want to connect with you, connect with your writings, or check out what you do, God? Where can they find you at?
Right. If they go to my Instagram here, it's just Sunez, Sunez. You know, they can DM me for any of my books. I'll send you. You know, you could buy the books directly from me. They'll come autographed and all that. My work is on premierhiphop.com. That's where I usually, when I write articles, I throw them up there. You know. I also have the Power Right Show. So if you go on what's called S Street Media, so the letter S and then Street Media, if you go to that YouTube channel, that's where my Power Right Show is, the Power Right Show. You know? And like I was saying, I was influenced by Bones Malone, right?
Indeed.
When Bones Malone saw me in the picture with Prince Power Rule, you know what I mean? Who, by the way, Prince Power Rule goes by Marcano now in a collective that he's part of called The Leftovers. And The Leftovers is an anti-gentrification collective of artists and artists, MCs, musicians, and etc., which I'm a part of. And when Bones Malone saw us together, he called us Power Right and Power Rule. You know what I mean? So that's why I named the show the Power Rights Show. You know what I mean? And that's on S Street Media. If you go to S Street Media, and if you go to if you follow DJ Toshi, if you follow Classic Stone Radio, the podcast, that's DJ Toshi's Classic Stone Radio podcast. I do that podcast too. I host it, and I interview all the guests that are on there. You know what I mean? That Toshi gets. You know what I mean? And Toshi has great taste in music, so it's not like, you know, my show does the good artists and he does the pop artists. No, that's not how we do it.
No.
We do all the good. We do all the good stuff. And don't get it twisted, man. Like, you know, I'm working on a book that's gonna come out at the end of the year, and it's just basically called The Reel of 2021, and it'll include The Reel of 2020 as well. It's just basically a complete, detailed bracketing of all the artists of this era, of this year, of these last 2 years, and putting them in different brackets and highlighting their work, so you know, like, what type of style of music they make, how these brackets overlap. And one of the major brackets in that is the 5%. And I tell you which ones are 5%. You know what I'm saying? Like, which ones I built with, that they sincerely share the knowledge, like they deal with it, they live that lifestyle. People like, you know, the God Allah Preem, Dark Him, you know what I'm saying? You know, Infinite Mind, my brother Infinite Mind, Killy Shoot, you know, Wise to God, obviously AZ, the God A Preem out in Chicago, you know what I mean? Our 5% brother Al Divino, the God Ras Fresco, you know what I'm saying? Peace to the God Born King. You know, Rome Streets, who's learning with the knowledge, you know what I mean? The God Ralphie Reese out in Philly, King Arthur, you know, Noah the Flood. I'm just naming so people know.
Yes, sir.
Ty the Dale, Planet Asia, Supreme Cerebral, Ill Conscious, S.C. Knack. Man, I can't say Al Divino without saying Perfection. You know, I started saying Remembered Imperfection because I wanted to say R.I.P. and I had to write so many eulogies for people I love, like Kevin R7, like my brother Sean Price, all of these people that had returned to their essence, and I had to write eulogies for them. And I started to say Remembered Imperfection because they were writing exact. And I don't like saying rest in peace because when I return to the essence, wherever I'm going, don't be telling me that I'm rested. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm building wherever I go. I got things to do every single cycle. You know? And our relationship to who returns to the essence is remembered, how we remember them in the mind. So that's why I say remembered imperfection. So I can't say S.C. Knack or I can't say Al Divino without saying remembered imperfection to the God King Asiatic, one of the legends in our nation. Not a regular God, not a upstanding God, one of the legends in our nation. A lot of these most progressive movements, the God was there teaching and adding on with those brothers. You know what I'm saying? So when people see the positive effects of lyrics, the positive effects of God's building disciples, where you don't see that the artist might build 120, but you see that the brother is an independent artist and has complete freedom over his work and makes a living off his work and not in the streets doing crime. A lot of that is from the ethos and the mentality that King Asiatic was bringing to these artists. And I know that not because I knew King Asiatic deeply. You know, we always had mutual respect when we saw each other, but it's from the documentation of all these artists that I'm talking about. You know what I mean? So remember the imperfection of the God King Asiatic. You know what I mean? And so many. I'm saying so many. You know?
Ain't no question, God. Ain't no question.
You know, so all that stuff, you know what I mean? So like if brothers go, you know, if they want to know my works, you know, if they go online, I post up all my shows and everything like that, and all that kind of stuff. You know
Word, God.
Even brothers that are in the New York City area that are willing to travel to Staten Island. I also teach Kung Fu. I have Kung Fu classes that I teach. I have a program called Concentrated Supremacy where I teach the basics and introductions of the martial arts lifestyle as I learned it through Shaolin Kung Fu and the arts of Wing Chun, the animal styles and all of that. You know what I mean? So, you know, you can acquire that as well. You know what I mean? So if people don't know if I can do it though, then that's why I got the nice little clips joints up there. You know
I seen the clips. I know, man. Man, the God told me, man. So it ain't God, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And thank you and commend you for your work, God. You're doing a lot of work, God. It takes a lot of work to hold down the class, especially the class at law school in Mecca, man.
Indeed. And you know, it's near compiled, so I don't know if it would come out next year. But I have a Peace Course book, Volume 1, that I'm making. You know what I'm saying? That has like the mentality of my teaching and a lot of ideas and plus lessons that I wrote for the class, so people can have them. Though, you know what I mean? But before people say like, "Oh, look, he's making money off the nation and teaching and shit like that," if I have students that can't afford it, I give it to them. You know what I'm saying? And shit, I done taught everything else for free, so there really would be very little in it, except for my understanding that would be in the book that I wouldn't get out for free. You know what I'm saying? But the Peace Course is every Thursday from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And if I can't make it to the school, I'm always online. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm always online doing it now. You know what I'm saying? You know, so people could always contact me in that way. And my email is Sunez97. So if you want to email me and ask for some teachings or some ideas or express, you know, some questions in a deeper level, I'm with that too.
Definitely, God. And last but not least, man, for the people out there who looking to get interested in our culture, who right at that brink, that's like, yo, I'm really interested in the 5%ers. I'm really ready to learn, or somebody that just started learning. What advice would you leave them with, God?
What advice I would leave them is that to learn things takes daring. You know what I'm saying? To learn things take daring, because the more that you know, the more that you're going to be ostracized, because you're going to be left alone. You know what I mean? The more that you're going to be on a lonely road. So prepare yourself to be lonely. You know what I'm saying? To be lonely with the knowledge. Because a lot of people want to be poor righteous teachers because they're just lonely. You know, they want to teach this to everybody because they're lonely. If you're equipped to be lonely with certain things and learn how to be with self, then you'll teach the right people and you'll teach in the right way. And that also entails learning in the right way, learning for the right reasons. A lot of people come to get the knowledge of self for salvation. They tried all the other routes, or they're curious about learning. You know, that curiosity has to turn into, well, what can my lifestyle be, and how daring will I be to have a lifestyle that says that I am the sole controller of my reality, and I will spend lots of my time, a majority of my time, living that out by studying to see if that was true. Because no matter how many years you have the knowledge degree in the 1 to 10, who is the original man? The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, and God of the universe. You never believe it. I have never believed it yet. You know what I'm saying? Every single day I work to prove it. You know what I mean? And if that's the kind of life that you live, where you're willing to encounter knowledge, though, even if it means that you could be wrong about everything that you had yesterday. Because I always tell students that the perfect student is the one that's willing to be wrong about anything that they have ever learned at any moment. And that's the ultimate humility. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I laugh when people tell me, like, yo, I might say something, yo, Sunez, the science says something different because it's outdated, what you just said. And I'm like, that's great. Send it to me. You know what I'm saying? And, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so we can update. And if any of you can show and prove that the black man is not God, that the original man is not God, that there's a mystery God hovering over, then please come and show and prove, so that way I can go home on Thursday and chill. You know what I'm saying? I can go home and chill. But until then, I'm going to be there.
I'll be on post. I know that's right, God. Peace to God.
Be here to the post. You know?
I like that,
Very
God.
fun.
Well, God, man, it's been an amazing pleasure, God. This was a really dope talk, man. You know, we're gonna have it up on Amazon and Spotify and, you know, most streaming platforms and stuff. The audio, we should have it up tonight. And then the video, we post our video replays up on YouTube and Facebook, God. If you know anybody want to catch it, and what I'll do is I'm gonna get you after the call, man, so I can make sure you get a copy of it too. But guys, it's been an amazing pleasure, God. I definitely appreciate you. I see we want to say anything before we get out of here.
You know what I'm saying? I got a lot out of the conversation. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate your presence. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully you decide to come back and visit us. You know, bless us with some more information.
Oh yeah, oh man, that'd be an honor.
Oh man, definitely, God. Well, God, we're gonna close it all out, man. If you care, God, I'm gonna keep you on. Don't hang up just yet, man. But to everybody out there that's checking in with us, make sure you check us out. The stream will be up for your viewing pleasure. The visual stream be up on YouTube. Check us out. Make sure you download the stream. You can click the link in our bio. Go down to podcast so you can get a direct audio download. If you've been out there, if you've been watching this whole time and you interested in the knowledge and you ready to go ahead and connect with our culture, man, hit the button, hit the link in our bio. Click on the first tab, the one that's shaking up and down, and put your info in, and we'll make sure that we get you connected with the people and get you with the guys on the earth right away, man, and help you get introduced to our culture. Other than that, if you've been out there with us, we can't wait to see you. We'll see you on Friday. We're going to have another powerful bill coming up, man. So with that, man, we're going to get up out of here. Peace.